Here's the issue with the WNBA, and I'm going to repeat a mantra. It is the most unlikable league and culture in all of sports by far. And I'm talking from the players to some of the ownership, to all the media members, to the podcasters, to those who defend it. It's the most unlikable league in the whole wide world. And this is just another piece of evidence to support that statement.
The WNBA was expected to have found its savior, an athlete unlike any other in a generation. A star so recognizable that she became a household name before ever playing a professional game. Someone so captivating that the moment she arrived, she packed arenas and shattered TV viewership records. But instead of celebrating her, the league did the unthinkable. It turned its biggest blessing into its biggest problem. The reality is harsh. Behind the highlight reels and polished press conferences lies a league torn apart, driven more by internal politics than by progress, so much so that it's now being labeled as the most unlikable culture in sports. And the proof of that accusation doesn't come from critics or rival leagues. It comes from how they've handled the one athlete who could have secured their future. Caitlin Clark's choice to walk away from a multi-million-dollar offer wasn't a mistake, despite what some sports writers claimed. It wasn't about loyalty to a league that pays her next to nothing while profiting off her fame. It was something far more deliberate, a carefully set trap. A trap the WNBA walked into willingly, and now can't escape. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the story the league doesn't want you to know, a story of sabotage, hidden motives, and a rising star who just outsmarted an entire organization. Because Caitlin Clark's move might not only force the WNBA to confront its corruption, but could also topple the system itself. To see the brilliance of her decision, you first have to understand the bait. And it was masterful. A new league, unrivaled, emerged, co-founded by WNBA standouts Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. When they approached Clark, they didn't just offer a contract. They offered an empire. The deal was jaw-dropping. Over $1 million for just 8 to 10 weeks of play. That's more than 13 times her rookie salary in the WNBA, a mere $76,535. Think about that. Clark brings sold-out crowds, record-breaking TV audiences, and millions in sponsorships to the league, yet she takes home less than many average professionals. It's not just unfair, it's insulting. But the offer didn't end with money. It came with something far more powerful: equity, ownership, a stake in the league itself. For the first time, Clark wasn't being treated as replaceable. She was being given real power, something the WNBA has never dared to grant her. Even one of Unrivaled's founders admitted the obvious. Caitlin Clark was being exploited. They flat out said she should already be one of the highest paid players in the world for the numbers she produces. That wasn't just an opinion, it was an admission. Proof that the WNBA has been happy to use her as a marketing machine while refusing to reward her accordingly. So when this deal surfaced, the expectation was clear. Of course she'd take it. Why wouldn't she? More money, more respect, more control. It was the perfect exit from a league that treated her like a cash register but paid her like spare change.
Is another reason why Caitlin Clark needs to flee the WNBA. It's a political organization. They're not serious about business. That they don't care about traditional sports fans. It's a little cult that puts out little political statements and everybody wears vote t-shirts. They don't care about making money. They don't care really about building up this league and making it profitable. They're a charity. She needs to flee the WNBA and start her own league.
This is yet another reason Caitlin Clark must get out of the WNBA. It's less a business and more a political machine. The league isn't focused on growth, profitability, or appealing to traditional sports fans. Instead, it operates like a small echo chamber, more concerned with making statements than building a sustainable future. Players are pushed to wear slogans and campaign gear, but the organization shows little interest in turning the league into a true, thriving enterprise. It functions more like a charity than a competitive sports business. For Clark, the answer is clear. She needs to walk away from the WNBA and take control of her own path, possibly by building a new league altogether. And that's what made her next move so shocking, because instead of taking the bait, Caitlin Clark walked away. The sports world froze. It wasn't just surprising, it was almost unthinkable. Who turns down $1 million salary, ownership stakes, and a chance to escape a league that resents them? Commentators scrambled for answers. Some insisted she needed rest. Others claimed she wanted to focus on her rookie year. A few pointed to her endorsements, saying she didn't need the money.
But every one of those explanations missed the mark.
Clark's rejection wasn't about fatigue, endorsements, or loyalty to the WNBA.
It was about sending a message.
By rejecting what looked like a dream opportunity, Clark made it clear she wasn't chasing paychecks, she was chasing influence. This wasn't a convenient choice. It was a declaration of war. While the WNBA got lost in politics, Clark was playing a bigger, more strategic game, one that stretched beyond basketball itself. Her rejection wasn't passive. It was deliberate. She turned it into a weapon, shining a light on the broken system she was stuck inside. And that's when everything changed.
Her decision worked like a signal flare. Suddenly, her story wasn't just about basketball.
It wasn't about stats, wins, or even salaries. It was about something bigger, something that drew in people far outside the sports world. Something strong enough to shake the WNBA to its core.
What was that signal?
Federal attention. The moment Clark said no, the story leapt from the sports pages into the national spotlight. A former White House aide, Sean Mullen, publicly called for a federal investigation into the WNBA, alleging Clark was enduring a textbook hostile work environment. This wasn't just hazing or hard play, this was systemic abuse, tolerated, if not encouraged, by the league.
The evidence is staggering.
In just her rookie season, she racked up 6 flagrant fouls against her, more than some veterans see in their entire careers. She's been blindsided by cheap shots, knocked down by Kennedy Carter, slammed hard by Marina Mabrey. 10 games lost to injuries that should never have happened if the league truly protected its biggest star. Even her opponents have started to admit it. Phoenix Mercury guard Sophie Cunningham bluntly stated, "The league isn't protecting its marquee player." Think about that. Not a fan, not a pundit, but another competitor, saying out loud that the WNBA is allowing Clark to take these hits. And yet, silence from leadership.
No serious suspensions. No real fines.
No public defense of the player driving their record ratings. Every foul, every shove, every injury has been brushed aside as part of the game, while Clark absorbs the punishment. That's why the hostile work environment claims landed so hard. This isn't speculation anymore. The bruises are visible, the injuries are real. The league's failure to act doesn't just look careless, it looks complicit.
But the targeting didn't end on the court. It reached all the way to the Olympic stage.
If the cheap shots raised eyebrows, the Olympic snub erased all doubt. Because what happened there wasn't about skill or performance, it was about politics. And leaked details from veteran reporter Christine Brennan's upcoming book revealed exactly why. Caitlin Clark was never going to make the Olympic roster, and not because she lacked the skill. Her stats and impact spoke for themselves. The truth is, the decision was fixed from the beginning. Her spot was sacrificed as a send-off gift to Diana Taurasi, a legend of the past, but a player long removed from her prime. This wasn't about building the strongest possible team to represent the US. It was about protecting the veterans, rewarding loyalty, and shutting out the one rising star whose popularity threatened to overshadow them all. And the justification was even more insulting than the decision itself. Reports reveal that officials feared the fallout if Clark made the roster but wasn't given enough playing time. Think about that. Rather than risk her stardom eclipsing the old guard, they left her off entirely. Clark wasn't excluded because she wasn't good enough. She was excluded because she was too good, too popular, too unstoppable. The message was crystal clear. This wasn't about fair competition, it was about control. When Indiana Fever coach Christy Sides broke the news, Clark's reaction wasn't anger or resignation.
It was a warning.
She simply said, "They woke a monster." That line wasn't just defiance, it was prophecy. Because in trying to humble her, the league only exposed how fragile its power truly was. And once that monster was awake, there was no putting it back to sleep. What followed proved just how much the WNBA depends on Clark, and how quickly the entire system could crumble without her. For years, league officials brushed off criticism with the same tired excuse, "We're still growing. Be patient." But Clark's arrival obliterated that narrative. The numbers told a story no amount of spin could bury. With her on the court, the WNBA reached levels of attention, attendance, and viewership it had never touched before. Average viewership during Clark's games?
1.81 million.
Arena after arena sold out. Teams had to upgrade to larger venues just to fit the crowds. Merchandise sales went through the roof. For the first time in decades, the WNBA wasn't just buried in the sports section, it was dominating national headlines. But the moment Clark was sidelined, everything collapsed. During the 10 games she missed due to injuries, ratings plunged by 55%. Average viewership fell to just 847,000. That's not a dip, it's a free fall. The kind of collapse that terrifies TV networks, advertisers, and sponsors. And here's the ugly truth. The WNBA isn't surviving because of the league itself. It's surviving because of one player. Caitlin Clark is single-handedly keeping the organization afloat.
The league knows it. The networks know it. Even her opponents know it.
And yet instead of protecting her, instead of building the league around the one star who could carry it forward, they've treated her like an ATM, a machine they can cash in on without ever granting her the respect, safety, or influence she's earned. It's not just short-sighted, it's self-sabotage.
Because the numbers don't lie.
Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA isn't weaker, it's irrelevant. And that's why her decision to reject the $1 million escape hatch wasn't reckless, it was brilliant. Because in that moment, Clark showed the world her fight wasn't about chasing money.
It was about leverage.
She didn't give up power, she created it. On the surface, turning down unrivaled's offer looked insane. $1 million salary, equity in a brand new league, freedom from the WNBA's politics, and she still said no. But the brilliance of that choice wasn't in what she refused, it was in what she gained. Overnight, she flipped the narrative.
She wasn't just another athlete trying to cash in.
She became the athlete willing to sacrifice millions to make a point. And that point cut directly into the heart of the WNBA. The system is broken, and she refuses to play along. The impact was devastating. For months, critics had warned Clark was being exploited. For months, fans had begged the league to treat her better. But it wasn't until she walked away from $1 million payday that the whispers turned into screams. Suddenly, the mistreatment wasn't speculation anymore. It was undeniable. No athlete rejects that kind of money unless something much deeper is at stake. Her rejection transformed a quiet controversy into a global headline. It turned accusations of a hostile work environment into proof that even the league's biggest star had had enough. It gave weight to calls for federal intervention. Because if Clark, the face of the sport, was willing to burn a fortune just to send a message, then the problem had to be real.
In a single move, she reshaped the story. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the executioner.
She didn't just pass on unrivaled's offer. She weaponized it, turning her own sacrifice into evidence that the fight wasn't about her paycheck.
It was about dismantling a corrupt system.
And that's when the second phase began. Because just as Clark ignited the crisis, the WNBA Players Union saw its opening and prepared to strike. The WNBA stands at a crossroads, facing federal investigations on one side and a players' revolt on the other. And at the center is Caitlin Clark, the star they tried to control but who now holds the power to destroy them. By rejecting the unrivaled deal, she turned a sacrifice into a weapon, and that weapon could bring the entire system crashing down. The real question isn't if the WNBA can weather this storm, it's if it can survive Caitlin Clark.